Okay, so I wanted to talk about a few points about changing the spark plugs in a 2009 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 4.7 V8 engine. It has two rows of spark plugs. It has one set of spark plugs that goes in the top by the intake manifold right under the coil pack. And then the coil pack has a second wire that comes down like this one. So the coil pack goes in, plugs in, first set of spark plugs under the coil pack, second spark plug comes off the wire down to the side of the engine. It takes a 5/8 spark plug, but you need a thin wall socket to get in there. So a regular 5/8 spark plug socket like this will not work. I made the mistake of using this socket, which I've had for a long time. I got this with some random tools. Someone ground this down and made it a thinner wall socket. So this actually worked just fine on the top, and it might have worked better if it was ground down more. But this worked fine on the top, so I didn't think much of it. And when I went to do the spark plugs on the side, it got stuck in one of the holes. So what I ended up doing to get it out was I went to Harbor Freight and I bought a set of these locking extensions. And you just pull back this and it lets that indent down. And this actually locks in here way better than you would think. Like, I can't separate it. If you were to start wiggling this kind of weird, you might get it to pop, but this thing does not want to separate. So when this was stuck in the hole, I could still visibly see it. So I just would, when I was sticking it down there, I would get my thumb to release this lock. I would stick it in and let it go with my finger, and then it was locked in. It was so tight in there, I couldn't pull it out by hand. So what I ended up doing was I was putting a ratchet on it, and I squirted, once it was locked in here, because I didn't want to get WD-40 inside the hole with the locking pin, because I didn't want the locking extension to be able to come out easy. So once this was in the hole, I sprayed WD-40 down below the socket, and then I started rotating this and pulling at the same time. So I was rotating and putting a lot of pressure pulling it out. Eventually, it was coming out little by little, and I think once the WD-40 helped a little bit, it got it to pull out. Without this locking extension, I'm not sure how I would have gotten it out. I honestly don't think it was seated all the way, but I don't know if you can see in there. When it's sitting on a spark plug, there's really no way to get a wire in there. A lot of people say on the internet, like, oh, stick a wire down in there and hook it. I honestly don't think that was strong enough at all, at least in my circumstance. I really think these locking extensions are the way to go. Plus, these are good to just have and use, especially when doing the top down. It stops it from falling. So this was a mistake I made. I used the extension to get it out. So then I went on Amazon and we bought two different sockets. This one's a 6-inch and it's a 5/8 thin wall. And then this one's a 16 millimeter standard spark plug socket, but it's a thin wall also. This one has a magnet in it. This one's really nice. It has these grooves so you can twist it by hand. The downside is this did not go on this. It only could do the back two spark plugs on each side. I needed this one to get to the front. I would have bought a 5/8 one, but I was having trouble finding a 5/8 thin wall. And then I saw on Amazon the reviews for this, like 90% of the reviews where people were praising it for being able to use it with their 4.7 engine. And the 16 millimeter is only like a 2,000ths difference bigger than the 5/8. So here's a 5/8, for example. See, it rocks around a little bit. Then here's the 16 mil. See, it rocks a little bit more, but you know, it holds it, it gets the job done. So I'll put a link in the description for both of these through Amazon. I would honestly suggest to get both because, I mean, this one is a dream, honestly, for doing the top because it has the magnet built in and stuff. And then this one's almost a necessity. If you could find a 5/8 one, that would be even better, 5/8 thin wall standard. Because a lot of times I was able to do this for the majority of the side spark plugs. I could stick this whole piece in the unit, but a few of them I had to stick this in first, then I had to get the locking extension on, then I had to put the ratchet on, loosen it, and then do the reverse. Then I had to break the socket or extension loose. And I think when I was doing some of the side ones, I used a regular extension just so it wouldn't be a problem getting it unlocked. And then I would have to like hold this like this and pull it out. And you know, doing the spark plugs on this thing is a nightmare. So I can't go into full detail on how to do everything. You know, someone's gonna have to find their groove, but I just want to help point out some pieces. The other thing that's a problem is these things break the spark plug boots super easy. So this is the coil pack and the ignition coil boot. So when you're trying to get this out, this is stuck on the spark plug and it breaks right here. So then what it does, it leaves this rubber piece down in the hole, which can be really hard to get out. So imagine this is stuck down in the spark plug well, like this, and it's, you know, it's kind of down in there, you can't really get to it. So what I do is I take this little tiny flat blade screwdriver and I get right on the side of the spark plug and I just stab it all the way down. And then what that does is it literally cuts it. So you can do this in 3, sometimes 2, 3 or 4 spots. And then once it's cut pretty good, I'll take one of these little ice picks or pokers, and I'll just stick it down in there, and I'll try to like break this free from the spark plug, break it free from the well. Just, you know, anything I can do to get it moving. Just being really careful not to damage the spark plug. And then we also have this pick. This is like an O-ring tool. And I say it's a little stronger than the dental picks. Some of those dental picks can be brittle, and I'm a little concerned about using those in a spark plug hole because you don't want the metal to fall. So, but once you can get this broken loose, then you can stick this pick in here and pull out the pieces of rubber. This one came out pretty good. Sometimes I was picking at it for a while and it was breaking pieces off. And then, so it'll leave a little bit of fragments behind, so you need to blow that out with an air compressor. So that's another thing, is getting these out is a pain, but that's a really good way I figured out how to do it. The last thing when you're putting these together, because a lot of times these will rip out and then the spring, there's a little spring in there that falls. So you got to make sure to get the spring. But imagine this was a brand new piece that we're installing, a brand new boot. What I like to do is I put the, now that I've learned, because I've made a mistake before, I put the spring in first, and then I install, this is the bottom half of the boot. Then I install the whole entire boot on with the spring there. And nine times out of 10, that holds that spring really good. Since I started doing it that way, I didn't have a problem. And then once that's all installed, this is the end of the boot that's gonna go over the spark plug. You're gonna wanna put on some of this like spark plug boot protector or some dielectric grease or something. And I like to get a Q-tip, and then so I can get right in there really good and spread it around there. Because I noticed a lot of times it was sticking to the spark plug itself and not really the wall. But I get it in there so when it goes on the spark plug, it doesn't stick anymore. And then I get it all around the outside. And right here on the spark plug, you can see an example where the black is on it. That's where the rubber was sticking. So putting the grease in these when you're reinstalling them will hopefully stop that from sticking on the spark plug again. And then next time you pull out the ignition coil, you won't have that problem of it sticking. That was just a few little tips. And, you know, just make sure you got the right socket, get some dielectric grease. You know, those rubber boots, a lot of times are gonna be stuck in there. So using this little flat blade and pick can get them out pretty good. And then this, these little locking extensions are worth their weight in gold. I'll put links to all this basic stuff on Amazon to help you guys find it if you're having trouble. All right, take it easy. Bye.